Hello, what's up, my friends? Um, Sorry for the imagery here, but basically, just to finish up explaining why this thing is not really a rhino, like why the experts are all wrong. They all claim this is a rhino. They claim that this is its tail, this is its head, and that these little islands here in front of Zamboanga Peninsula in Mindanao are shit. So he's like shitting on this bird or on this dead guy or something. Anyway, that's what they say. He's defecating on the recumbent man. But I don't know. Maybe it's just that the Europeans are preoccupied with. I mean, honestly, it's like, it's not. This is his head. He's faced this way. This is not his tail. He's not a rhino. This is not his head. This is his back feet. So, they say this is his head. These kind of little spiky bits are his spikes on his head. So this doesn't even make sense for the rhino's head because this part hangs down. So, if this is the rhino's nose, then the spike should be going this way. Anyway, so it's just nonsense, ridiculous shit. And so I was comparing it to this, which is an actual Stone Age depiction of a rhino from France. But, just to be thorough and disgusting, I'm going to show an actual rhino shitting. So there's a fake rhino fake shitting in the fake world of academics, and here's an actual rhino shitting. So, I mean, I guess you could say they're right in that the rhino does put his head down a bit, but maybe not that far. But like the idea that that these would somehow be these legs, but perhaps even more glaringly that these legs somehow are not necessary. They just are, what? Front legs? What? Rhinos don't have front legs. Like before people who are designated experts, try to identify animals, they should just do a count of limbs and be like, how many limbs does this animal have? So to me, it's like this has to be his head, because the only other thing, I mean, what they're claiming is this is his head, and that's impossible because that would mean he doesn't have 4 legs, in which case he definitely wouldn't be a rhino. Another thing is obviously, like, this guy is an animal who has a tiny head and a relatively slim body, especially compared to like Australia here. But wait, I'm gonna have to make my cat. Let's see, I have to let my cat out, I think. Oreo, what's up? You want to go out? Little annoying fuck. No. 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 All right, buddy, you're going outside. All right, so zoology. I know that's a cat because it has cat ears. He has a cat tail, and he has 4 legs, which is something that cats have. If he only had 2 legs, I would be like, hey, maybe that's not a cat. So that's kind of what we're up against with the so-called experts, where they just look at the thing. They're like, I mean, it's just, I don't know, boggles the mind. Like, yeah, I'm sorry for this imagery. I hope nobody's eating, but it's just, we have to hold it up against what it's supposed to be. So, I mean, granted, their tails are, once they lift them up, they are somewhat sizable. They're somewhat, similar to this, but they taper off to a point at the end. And nobody can tell me this tapers to a point. It just goes to there and stops. So, I mean, the most obvious point is just that these feet are clearly pointed this way. But according to every expert and every website, no, apparently these feet don't point this way. They point that way. And I guess they're claiming that the heels that stick back are actually really pointy knees. Do rhinos have really pointy knees? No. But that's no impediment. It's just clear that nobody cares, the expert class, they don't care, because being an expert nowadays is just about climbing up the totem pole, sucking the right dick, like getting the government contracts, whatever it is. You don't have to know what you're talking about. In fact, the more full of shit you are, the more likely you are to rise up the ranks. So it's not even in their interest to like focus on facts. So instead they just, some other expert said this is a rhinoceros. Okay, it's a rhino. Everybody else, nobody challenges that because they know it's such a bullshit house of cards, academia and like the expert hierarchy, that they don't want to challenge it because they know it'll fall apart. They'll know if people realize that how stupid this idea is, how stupid the fucking archaeology is, they'll realize how stupid the mainstream medicine, how stupid the mainstream everything is. So yeah, like his body is definitely not the body of a rhino. And it's not like they slim things down, because this is a bison and they gave the bison, even though the bison is Australia, but they gave the bison a regular fat bison body. So there's no conceivable reason why they would depict a rhino and slim him down artificially and then give him these pointy prosthetic knees and then cut off his front legs and then give him a tail that's not pointy like a real rhino's tail, and then just stick his head way down here and have it just this smudgy thing that's totally obscure. It's like amazing. So yeah, they missed the width of the rhino by like about 4 times. There's like 1/4 or less of the width, and then they missed these whole. It's just stupid. It's just, I just wanted to point out for anybody who doesn't understand right off the bat that that's not a rhino. At least now, it's not a rhino. This is not a rhino. This is not a rhino's tail. This is not a rhino's anything. But yet, this is what every university in the world teaches and has taught for over 50 years. So there you go. Your daily dose of shitting rhinos. And yeah, clearly they knew how to depict actual rhinos. So yeah, this rhino guy, his head is Zamboanga Peninsula in Mindanao. His body is the Visayas. His pelvis is Luzon. And his back feet, what they think is a head, but it's really just his back feet, are Taiwan. And his front feet are Sulawesi of Indonesia. So I did this. I made it black and white just because it's even easier to see Zamboanga Peninsula this way. So it's not green. It's just black like this. And then here's, the recumbent man or whatever. So it's hard to know. Like they call him the Birdman, um, but he could also just be a Neanderthaloid hybrid or a Denisovan hybrid. We don't know really exactly what the Denisovans looked like, but I would say that since it's in France, I would say it's more likely that he would be a Neanderthaloid hybrid. I mean, some have thought that he is a pure Neanderthal. That is possible because the Neanderthal's face was dominated by their nose. Like anybody nowadays who has a prominent, pointy nose that sticks out forward, especially from the bridge of the nose, has Neanderthal DNA. So the original Neanderthals were like much more, they had that trait much more markedly. And so that could be that this is actually just a dude, but he's Cro-Magnon, Neanderthaloid hybrid, or maybe even a pure Neander. And so his nose is just really long. But who knows? It could also be a dude with a bird's head. And of course, that peninsula on Papua is actually called Bird's Head Peninsula, and the lower jaw is called Bird's Beak Peninsula. So that would certainly fit if it is a bird's head. But I think Neanderthaloid morphology was often likened to like equine characteristics, or avian characteristics. Wait, equine? That's like horses. Avian is birds, right? Yeah. Sorry, I try to be nerdy and use nerd words, and then I fail. So let's see. So yeah, just to recap, like this, his head seems to be, they zoom in on certain aspects, like in the later Egyptian maps. So they zoom in on this part, which is this peninsula that's right here, Torilla Peninsula, and his horn. This horn is Warimunjawa or something. I forget what it's called. Peninsula, and his other horn is Park Island and something else island there. And this, his front, his really big leg, his only like really sizable front haunch there is Cape York. And then just behind it is another leg that's less prominent, which I think is an island that's right in here. That's called Mornington Island. So that's a nice name, I guess. It is Mornington, right? No, it's Momington. Holy shit, I was so sure it was Mornington. I was like, oh, that's a nice name. Okay, Momington Island. Okay, cool. So that's Momington Island, and so yeah, Park Island, or what is it? Camp Island, Torilla Island, Cape York, Momington Island. These are a couple different islands, like back to back or whatever. Like, I forget what they're all called. But you know, what seemed to be his back legs. You know, I think that this leg here is this Dampier Peninsula and Ardialoon. So I'm not sure if this whole thing is Dampier, but basically, yeah, this whole peninsula is like that one leg. And then the other leg is Cape Range. You know, back here, Cape Range, and seemingly the nearby island of, you know, the thing. Barrow. So yeah, there you go. And so I'm trying to figure out like what all the other things in the 5,500-year-old Tomb 100 at Hierakonpolis, the Egyptian map, what all the different avatars in that are. So, you know, it's like, I think I've identified some of these, but I'm not 100% sure on really, not sure if I'm 100% on any of these ones in this quadrant, but they match pretty well. Maldives. So yeah, the idea that Madagascar is this dude and he has just one foot and that foot is this thing here and he has this thing on his belt which is like this thing here and he's throwing like a boomerang which is like this whole series of seamounts and